the weekly upload schedule for all professional manga and webtoon creators. Every 7 days, there's a new episode / chapter for whatever story you're looking forward to reading every single week. It's the system that's barely doable for the creators responsible for them, but it's reaching the demands of millions of readers anticipating new material on a regular basis every single week. As you know, this is pretty common practice for, anything that's on Weekly Shonen Jump or Weekly Shonen Magazine or most of the professional series that you read online, as well as webcomic platforms like Webtoon Originals and Tapas and all those, right? I want to talk today about the schedule itself and how intense it is. As a lot of you already know how intense it is. We hear about how intense it is, but what is it really like? It's over 100 hours of work per week, leading to unhealthy habits and health problems later in life. And it might even lead to early death, and that's usually what happens if the authors do not take care of themselves. Take the author of Berserk, the author of Hunter x Hunter, the author of Solo Leveling, as a few examples of creators who fell victim to the gruesome scheduling involved in making stories at such a consistent pace every single week, right? Many authors opt for biweekly or monthly schedules now, even if they have assistants, because it's just a lot healthier to maintain that as opposed to weekly. I don't think anyone, especially working by themselves, can do weekly chapters unless their story is like 2 or 3 pages every single week. If it's like a normal length chapter, like 20 pages or like 40 plus webtoon panels per week, then it's just not healthily doable by a single person. It's very common for authors to get burnt out, sick, take frequent hiatuses, or die, obviously, because of the amount of work involved in weekly release schedules. I have a lot of respect for the people who do that, especially coming from someone who's, taken on something close to that. I did bi-weekly for my webtoon like 2 times. And I can't imagine doing it weekly, especially by myself. It's ridiculous. Like the amount of work that I envision it is like you wake up, work, and go to sleep, and then obviously eating in between that when you can. And you don't sleep much either. It's like Oda, creator of One Piece, he says he sleeps like 2 to 3 hours a night, or at least he used to. I think he's taking better care of himself now, but it's just not healthy whatsoever. I have a lot of respect for those authors just because of my own experience. I mean, even before that, I could look at it and be like, wow, that's insane. That's an insane work ethic, and then trying to do something like that myself, and then looking at it is like, I have no idea how they do it. It's beyond me. Obviously, they have a lot more experience, so they're probably faster at what they do. But yeah, lots of respect. But yeah, if you don't already know, I make my own right now webcomic. I will be moving over to doing manga at some point in the near future, but I committed myself to a bi-weekly schedule for my story, Blood White, twice. I did that twice. I did it for several months, 2 different times. First time was from episode 6 to 16, and then I did it again this year during episodes 18 to 35. And while I did bi-weekly instead of weekly, I think a lot of what I've experienced over these 2 time periods, me doing bi-weekly, is very similar to many of the things that a lot of these professional authors experience doing weekly. Maybe not to the same degree, but I was experiencing a lot of the same things that I think they likely deal with. There's certain things that aren't there, like they have a bit more of a professional setting where they have editors and they have, like people that they're collaborating with. But in terms of like the amount of work involved, I've definitely felt it for sure. Especially since I don't have any assistants. At least the second time around I did. The first time I had my boy Meech help me with the coloring on a few episodes. Shout out Meech. But yeah, I didn't have much help or assistance with mine whatsoever. I do have an editor though. He doesn't really do any work on the comic itself, but he did look at a lot of my scripts and help me with those. But shout out Lacing. Yeah, and then Meech was helping with flat colors. I don't remember which episodes in particular. I think it was at least like 4 or 5 episodes that he helped me with. But yeah, most professional mangaka and webtoon authors, they have a team, like a whole team of assistants to finish the weekly deadlines. Like I said earlier, I don't think it's possible to meet weekly deadlines with the quality that they want to preserve without assistance. Like there's just no way without killing yourself. Unless you have like I said before too, like you have like a really short chapters, or if it's like a short gag manga or something like that. So I think bi-weekly is about the most that someone can do by themselves, unless they're just completely cracked at what they do. And I'm not there yet, so there ain't no way. I can't even do I can barely do bi-weekly on my own as of right now without burning out severely, which I'll get to later. So on my first alright, let me just say I'm gonna talk about mostly like my own experience here. There's a lot of people who experience this differently, when they try to do something like this. And I just want to say, like, if you're seeing like the amount of work involved with doing something like this weekly, or just feel like there's no way I can do this, you can. I would recommend, if it's comic, manga, webtoon making is something you want to do, I would suggest, even if you don't think you are at the skill level that you need to be in order to do it, just try it. Start doing something bi-weekly. Just try it. Because I think the experience is worth it. Even if it does get tiring, if it does get exhausting, like you will learn a lot, you will grow a lot. It isn't all sunshine and rainbows though. So, yeah, that's what I want to get into. But anyway, my first bi-weekly run for Blood White, episodes 6 to 16. These episodes were like half the length of like my more recent ones. They were around 20 panels per episode, which isn't really that much, but at that time I also had a part-time job, so half the time I was working at my job, half the time I was working on the webtoon, and during that time I didn't really have a lot of time for hobbies and hanging out with people, so I was just doing those two things. Of course, during this time, Meech helped with a few of the episodes, which lightened the load a little bit, but it was still very difficult, especially on weeks when I had to put in extra hours at my old job. I remember taking my tablet to work in order to finish the episodes in time. It was really hard to focus on my job drawing. So usually I would just do like the flat colors while I was there, during the weeks when Meech wasn't helping me, because that wasn't like super hard to do. But I remember being relatively burnt out towards the end of that. Nowhere near as bad as the second run though. The second run, which the first biweekly run, I think that was from around September, October 2023 to April 2024. And then the second run went from April this year to December 5th, earlier this month. Unless this is January already when this video comes up. I don't know. Anyway, that was for like 8 to 9 months that I went for uploading consistently bi-weekly. I did take one extra week, but other than that, it was non-stop. Every other week there was a new episode. My episodes were twice as long as they were previously, the last time I did bi-weekly. But by this time I had quit my job, so I was able to do longer episodes without as much of an issue. I worked on them full-time, pretty much. I don't know the exact hours per week that I was working on. It was probably over 100. Some weeks it was over 100, some weeks it was not. Just depended. But anyway, to answer the main question of the video, what is it really like maintaining such a strict schedule for so long? Too Long Didn't Read version is it's extremely hard. Shocker. But how hard it is depends on a lot of different things. One thing for sure, how much of the story, how much of the characters, the world building that you have planned beforehand. Also having an optimized workflow, like planning like what you're gonna do each day to maintain consistency. There's so much planning involved before you even do that, because if you don't have like a set routine before you start, you're gonna be all over the place, and it's gonna make the burnout come even sooner than you wanted to. Second thing that can make it harder than it needs to be is your living situation, which in some cases isn't always in your control, especially if you're younger. And the comfortability outside of making manga, in terms of like how well you are, or how well off you are, how well you take care of your mental and physical health, having a robust support system, like people around you to support you. For me, it was like I quit my job. I had saved up a bunch of money so I could quit. But in order for me to have the money I save last as long as possible, I rely on my family to help pay for things, and they're supporting me to do this by assisting in that way. Another thing that could make it a lot harder than it needs to be is having a lack of self-discipline, and it kind of ties into the last one with like the mental health side of things. If you don't have self-discipline, if you're not able to push yourself, people like to say sometimes don't push yourself, but if you're doing something like this, you have to be able to do that. You cannot just be like, oh, I don't feel like doing it today. No, you have to sit your ass down and get to work. It's not always fun to force yourself to do something when you don't want to do it. But sometimes you have to just sit down and do it. At least show up. Try it for a little bit. Sometimes it's not really clicking, so you gotta take time away, go do something else. Personally, I didn't always do that, and that's what I'm going to talk about in a little bit, because I probably could have done better. I mean, this is my first experience doing this full time, which is why I'm even making this video. But yeah, you definitely want to take frequent breaks to avoid burnout and not make the manga or your comic or your webtoon or whatever your entire life for the for the schedule that you're working. Another thing, like, mindset is everything. Like, if you're cynical, if you're in a bad loop mentally and you try to tackle something like this, you are going to crash and burn mentally. It is not for the weak, not for the weak-minded. You have to be very, very resilient if you're going to tackle something like this. So I'm gonna elaborate a little bit more. Going back to the first point I made, planning is like such a huge thing. I imagined for professionals, they plan a lot of things with their editors, so the planning process is probably a lot smoother there. But if it's just you, it's going to take more time to plan, but it's worth it. Because if you don't plan your story beforehand and you just go straight into it without planning a lot of it out firsthand, it's just going to be a complete mess. You're not going to be able to maintain a smooth flowing narrative whatsoever. And when your story suffers in that way, you're going to lose passion for it in no time. Because you're going to go back to your episodes that you've been making and be like, wow, these are not that good. And then you're going to lose motivation to work on the new episodes. And then you're just going to stop. Or you're going to want to stop, right? So for Bloodwhite, I wrote several Google Docs about a bunch of different aspects of the story that I wanted to do. I had one doc that was like a summary of everything and like an outline of like everything I wanted to happen in the certain season, and then I made an outline for each bullet point in this season and planned each of those out. And then I made a document for just the characters, and I made a document for the world building, and then I made a document for like chronological timelines, like how old characters are and in different points of the story. And then I made all the documents for the episode scripts themselves. And then I even have like a separate document where I can just put random thoughts I have and then organize them later as I'm working on the comic, because plans change as you work on it, right? Like you kind of develop things as you go a little bit, and you kind of have to be loose with it a little bit, because if it's too rigid, then if you want to change something, it makes it really hard to do. Like, you want to have a little bit of wiggle room with your story when you're going along with it. I think if you have more experience with writing, you can get away with being very rigid with how you plan the story, but when you're starting out, I recommend not being too strict in terms of executing it the way that you had written it originally. So don't worry about it too much if you're just starting out, but yeah, I overall would just suggest planning as much as you can. And honestly, I should have wrote more before I started, I think. There were some things that I did not elaborate on that I should in retrospect, which is something I've learned. It's something I can take away from doing all of this. I mean, Blood White is my first story that I've executed, publicly at least. So it's kind of been my guinea pig to learn all these things. And I had scripted and storyboarded several episodes in advance, way before they would even come out. Also, like, I had, I think, 5 or 6 episodes storyboarded ahead of like where I was at in terms of like which ones are getting uploaded. So like episode 22 would come out and I would be storyboarding episode 28, for example. I also designed all the characters well before they showed up in the story. Like, I didn't just design them on the spot. The other thing that I talked about earlier, like, you want to craft like a schedule. I might put it on screen here if I remember to, but I had like a thing where I'd like draw line art for like a certain amount of days, and then work on coloring for a certain amount of days, and then backgrounds for a certain amount of days, and then rendering and the dialogue, and then storyboarding stuff, and whatever else I had time to do. And I had like a schedule set for that, and I didn't stick to it super strictly. Like, I was a little bit loose with it, but it's kind of like a guideline to keep you going and having like a goal for each day to get a certain thing done. Let's see. It's not something that you want to follow like one-to-one. It's just as you're making your story, you just want to be conscious of like what you're planning, like have a direction. That way you're not as overwhelmed every single week. But yeah, let me elaborate on the second point too, like with the living situation thing. Obviously, if you're in a certain situation where it's going to be very difficult or volatile to even attempt something like this, I would recommend waiting until you're in a like more comfortable living situation before doing this, because if you have bigger things going on, this is not something you're going to be able to maintain at all. Especially if you're not getting paid for it. Like, there's just no way. Yeah, stability and routine helps to stay consistent. I'm very fortunate to have an affordable living situation here with my family. Like, I saved up a lot of money before I quit my job to do this. And part of the reason I stopped doing biweekly recently was because money is just not gonna last forever. Like I quit, it was like July, August 2024. So I've not been making any money for, how many months is that? Like 15 months or something like that. 15, 16 months. Which is kind of crazy that I've still not had to look for a job yet. I don't do commissions. That's a lie. I have done a few commissions, like a total of 1 or 2, and since I've quit my job. But I don't publicly do commissions. And the only commissions I've done have been from people that I already know, like in person. So that's one thing that I would consider. Like, are you willing to do something like this, even if it means you're not going to make any money? And if you are considering doing it, are you in a situation where you can do that? Like, is someone going to be able to provide for you, basically? Because as of right now, this is not like a feasible job unless you have a very big following on whatever social platform you have for people to, donate to you and all that fun stuff, which I don't have. My Patreon has members, but they're all free members. I don't make any money. So yeah. If you're gonna do something like this, plan ahead, save up some money, at least for a little bit. That is if you're gonna quit your job. If you can do bi-weekly schedule while you're working a job, you're a different trooper. Go for it. Or if you're in school, whatever. Another thing, physical health. Extremely important. You spend a lot of time sitting down in one spot. And I'm just gonna say right now, if I did not exercise for the 8 to 9 months that I worked on Blood White bi-weekly, I would probably be diabetic. I would probably be 300 pounds. No, maybe not that much, but yeah, I would be very, very unhealthy. Because even though I've been exercising regularly, during the time I did bi-weekly, I still barely maintain my physical health. It's not easy sitting down for that long. Which is another thing. I think I kind of went overboard with it, honestly. But that's because I've just been really hard on myself. I would get antsy like all the time. Like I would want to just get up and move all the time when I'd be working on my stuff, and I would just force myself to keep sitting down and working on it anyway. But all I needed to do is just get up and stretch, go walk somewhere for a little bit. But I was stubborn, and in retrospect, I should have listened to that feeling more. But yeah, you need to get up and move, right? But yeah, I did run like 1.5 miles every single weekend. And when I wasn't doing that, like during the week, I would just do like weight lifting exercises like 2 or 3 times a week, and then I'd go for 1.5 mile run every single weekend. That was kind of my schedule that I did. I would probably recommend just working out like at least 6 days a week. I didn't do that, but part of the reason for that is because when I do work out, I tend to try to eat protein, but obviously when I'm not making money, it's kind of hard to eat a bunch of food because food costs a lot of money, especially these days. So if I had a stream of income, I'd probably be working out more than I do. But anyway, Oh, the other thing, mold sickness. I had to deal with that for a while, so that made doing biweekly pretty difficult because I was sick for a good 2 or 3 months straight. So yeah, please be mindful of your living situation, because there's so many things that can disrupt being able to be consistent. Yeah, please take care of yourself. Mental health is another big thing too. Admittedly, that was a very difficult thing for me, because I like, I'm just gonna say, like, you want to have yourself figured out before you tackle something like this, because working on something that's bi-weekly or even weekly, you're gonna be in your own head a lot, like trying to convince yourself to keep working on this. I mean, I kind of talked about it earlier, like you have to have a good mindset, and for me, like, working on bi-weekly, I'll admit, was kind of a way for me to run away from certain responsibilities. Like, I kept telling myself, if I'm working on this, then I don't have to worry about these other things because I'm working, right? Like, I'm being productive. I don't have to feel guilty about not doing certain other thing, which isn't true. Like, there's a lot of things that I've just been avoiding. Not just externally, but internally as well. Just like processing certain things. I just recommend being in tune and figuring out any like past traumas you have, like getting yourself figured out or taking therapy. Getting your life sorted before you do something this freaking difficult. Like, it is really, really hard, dude. It is by far the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. Maintaining something like this for this long. And the support system, like having family, friends. I'm not gonna say my support system is the best, but it's definitely not bad. Hopefully you have a supportive family. Hopefully you have friends that can help you. I don't know if I said before, but like, I'm kind of talking to like creators, right? Not so much consumers, but this is for like readers that are maybe trying to do the same thing or want to know what it's really like to do bi-weekly, everything that's involved in it. Probably should have said that earlier, but yeah. Having good friends, supportive family, significant other, that probably helps a lot. Having online peers that are doing the same thing to help motivate you, that's really, really helpful. Just having those things. Online peers, because of the nature of it, like not really knowing the person like in person, it can be kind of hit or miss depending on who you run into, because give me a second. There's a lot of energy vampires out there, and it's not just online either. It's, make sure you keep around people who are going to lift you up and not bring you down, because a lot of the people who bring you down, they've got their own issues, and when you're doing something that's difficult, it's the last thing you need. It's just extra worry built on top of what you've already got going on. Last thing I want to talk about, last thing that makes things harder than they need to be, kind of just ties into everything I've been talking about before, but yeah, you have to be able to push yourself a little bit. You don't grow inside your comfort zone. You need to be able to push yourself, be comfortable doing something you might not want to do. I went a little bit overboard with that, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I'd be sitting there fucking miserable, and I'd be like, yeah, just keep working anyway, it doesn't matter. So in some ways you kind of, at least in my case, I was getting comfortable with being burnt out, but I would not recommend that. It's probably what professionals have to deal with on a regular basis. Like, they're just burnt out constantly, and they're just chugging along anyway. Like, they just don't, like, mind it. They just choose not to. And that's kind of what I did too. And that's probably why a lot of, big series kind of like dip down in quality as they go on, because like the authors getting burnt out. So maintaining quality too. Like, more burnt out you get, the harder it is to maintain the quality that you want to have, the less passion you're going to have for what you're doing. And that's definitely a problem that I've run into, which is, yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I took like a week or two, I didn't draw anything. That's not true, I drew a little bit, but I didn't draw very much. I went from, after episode 35 came out, like the first episode of the new art for Blood White, I couldn't do anything, dude, for like a good week after that came out. I went from drawing 10 to 12 hours a day to barely 1 to 2 hours for like a good week. And yeah, getting burnt out is not fun. And I think bi-weekly schedules, if you're not careful, if you're not prepared for it, they're burnout simulators is what I like to call them. But yeah, mindset is everything too. But yeah, the last few months of doing bi-weekly, I think, were so hard on me mentally. It was so hard to not isolate myself, and like, I got very avoidant with friends, with family. Yeah, like I said, just get your shit together before you try and do something like this. Yeah, I've kind of slowed down. I've kind of shifted my gears to work on different things now. Like, if I feel like working on a video one day, or if I feel like drawing or doing studies a day, I can do that now. I'm not just tied to just working on this story. And at this point in my career, I think it's better to just focus on a lot of different things that are just going to help you out in the long run, like experimenting more, learning more. I'm not getting paid to do what I'm doing, so there's not really any point in like overworking myself like I did. For anyone else who's trying to be more consistent, I would just say, yeah, be mindful about how you're treating yourself. Like, and I'm not saying be easy on yourself, like you need to push yourself, but at a certain point, if you don't take a step back, you are going to crash and burn, like I did. So yeah, I think at the beginning of my second bi-weekly run, I was super far ahead of schedule all the time. I finished the episodes like a few days before the episode was supposed to come out, and I would be 2 episodes ahead too. Like, I had 2 buffer episodes ahead of the one I was working on. Yeah, last couple months, I would not do anything for like the first 2 or 3 days after an episode came out. I would do the line art like the next 7 days, and then I would just speed run every other step in a span of 4 days. And I'd be so burnt out by the episode, I'd just repeat the same cycle. I just wouldn't do anything for the next 3 or 4 days after that one came out. And it was not fun. So yeah, all the things that I talked about today are very necessary for doing something like this. Obviously, making money would be super great and would probably motivate you, me, everyone else who wants to do this on a regular basis. But yeah, I don't think sacrificing your happiness in order to finish your story is worth it, no matter how much you love it. So yeah, that's about all I have to say. This video's gonna be stupid long. It's basically a podcast. Holy shit. Okay, I'm probably gonna forget to say things that I wanted to say in this video, but yeah, if you have any questions or comments about anything else that maybe I forgot to say, yeah, don't be afraid to ask. But yeah, this is about it. I'll see y'all later.